mention has something to do with the other. That's a short. But our Dr. B, like his grandfather, graduated from med school at the University of Pennsylvania, 23 years of age, took his inheritance. In factor in inflation, it was worth just south of $8 million. So he took the diplomas of inheritance, moved down here, and at 23, he retired. Never practiced medicine, became a gentleman farmer. That's what I want to be when I grow up. A gentleman farmer who made a few bucks in the bed. Now Blake is facing a choice down here. He's got to make up his mind. I think I know what he's going to do. He goes straight and then hooks to the left. He goes out over the main bridge, exit 0 of the Garden State Park. Lobster House, Lucky Bones Restaurants, Whale Watch, part of our big fishing fleet. I don't think he's going that way. Mike is far too bright. He understands tourism. He wants to provide you with all the information you need to have a good time here. So he's going to go to the right because he wants to show you the only Wawa in Cape. And we have one Wawa, we have one gas station, which is right there, and that's it. And the Wawas are just around past this building here. There it is. No gasoline there. And then this is Texas Avenue, but it will magically, as we get into the curve, turn into Pittsburgh Avenue. And as we go into the curve, we get into what is referred to around here as unaffordable housing. The development is known as Harbor Cove. And mostly the guys living in there are trolley drivers. They make huge sums of money doing this job. And I also mentioned a bit about the fishing industry. As a teacher, sometimes at Christmas, I would get scallops, fresh scallops as a Christmas gift, which is kind of nice. And the industry employs a lot of people down here, but it's also dangerous. And through the years, we've lost 76 fishermen at sea. So in the 1980s, the city constructed the Fisherman's Memorial. Now, we can't get down there. This is Missouri Avenue to your left. You look all the way down the street, you see a flagpole, and at the base is the monument. It's a mother looking out to the harbor with her 2 children. And it is lovely, but what's cool is the beach down there. There's a little cove beach that looks out on the harbor. You see the Coast Guard cutters in the distance, the fishing boats pulling into the Lobster House. You see the bridge from the distance. It's really worth seeing. And then the next 2 streets are the entrances to the Coast Guard base. The only training center for the U.S. Coast Guard is located here in Cape May. I was delighted to see a young lady on board, because we don't see children here in Cape May. September to June, we don't see any kids. Children were banned from Cape May 3 years. But there aren't many kids. K to 6, Cape May Elementary, I don't think there's 125 kids in the school. Most of those kids are called toasties because they're the children of Coast Guard parents. So one more reason to love our Coast Guard. You see the symbol for the bike path, very great recreation here. About 10 miles up the parkway, if you quite a bit for the Cape May County Park and Zoo. You gotta go there. It's a freebie, and it's ranked one of the top 15 zoos in the country. Snow leopards, all kinds of neat stuff there. Check it out. And then we also sponsor a really neat event annually called the Escape from Cape Triathlon. It's the first Sunday in June every year. They take several thousand competitors, put them on the Cape May Lewis Ferry, take them out into the bay, and they begin their triathlon by leaping 12 feet off the back of the ship into the bay. And they swim to the terminal, they get on the bikes, they get over to West Cape May, and they finish with a 5K on Bay Drive. Really special. This part of town, the eastern part of town, was the last to be developed. Really in the 60s when it started to be successfully developed. And the prices, you might be surprised. In the 60s, people were buying units for $9 grand. You're not going to touch anything farther down there for under $500,000 today. The guy who tried to develop down here, maybe it's a familiar name, Peter Shields. Have many of you eaten with the Peter Shields in? Well, he had lots of things that went bad for him, but the one thing that went right was the building of his house. And you see the big white columns of the Peter Shields Inn. And you'll notice the steps, because they'll do weddings on the steps. And the reception is held on either porch. But weddings in Cape May, a lot of them on the beach, are just beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned a couple of difficult times. The Great Fire of 1878 was devastating, and just as devastating was the nor'easter of 1962. The water was right over the seawall. If you've been to the Chalfont, you know it has a railing in the front. The floodwater is several blocks inland, or 3 and 4 feet high. And it caused all kinds of problems and damage, turned this street on its side. But fortunately, federal disaster money helped out a bit, and folks rebuilt. But they also have a building height limit in Cape May. After the flood, you don't go up above 35 feet. Speaking of big, our largest hotel, this is the Grand. And you see the tower sticking out of that blue tower. That was built during World War II. They were called fire control towers. And they're not talking about extinguishing fires, we're talking about shooting at German U-boats. 15 towers, what was known as Fort Miles. They could not get permission to knock down the tower to build a hotel, so they just built around it. And I always want to talk about some of the little nondescript places. One of these is the Cape May Kiwanis Clubhouse. All right, that's cool, but here's the neat part. This was the old Cold Spring Life Saving Station. See the lookout tower up there? Yeah. And the windows were doors, and they would launch boats out to ships in distress back in the day. During the Depression, the Kiwanis bought this at auction for $120. And I'm talking to some of the members, because he was an old-time member, and they said, and the other members got on his case because they told him he could have gotten it for less. Now you have the modern hotels here, but it then shifts as we get into the old section. And these are my favorites, my beachfront beauties. I'm just looking to see who survives. All right, we're all good. Old, mostly 1870s beachfront mansions, which are just lovely. And so we're going to point out a couple of these to you. So in the distance, you see the red top with the American flag on it. That building is known as the Sea Mist. It is 5 stories high. From the beach, it looks like a ship. It's enormous. It was built in 1873. They completely redone in the 1990s. And when they do postcards of Cape May, there are certain buildings they take pictures of, and that's one of them. And the other is the Abbey with its big tower. So here you go. Here's the Sea Mist. I imagine if you get up on that top floor, that's quite a view up there. And then on opposite corners down here, I love to talk about these two. The sandy colored one, I just love these circular verandas. You can also see the way it's built, why the nor'easters haven't affected it too much. This one here had its foundation elevated. See the 2 dogs out front? This was a big project. The dogs were wearing hard hats when they were doing that. And then the Baronet is the oldest beachfront cottage, 1871. Just love it. All right, then down the way, you see the big green tower of our convention hall. So the first one went up in 1916 and was blown to bits in the nor'easter of 62. They put up another one, and it lasted about 50 years, and then that one was knocked down to build this new one. And it's beautiful. And they do concerts in there, and the backdrop for the stage is the ocean and the beach. And they do movies on the beach. Yeah, I don't know whether it's Saturday nights or what night it is, but of course they do Jaws, got to do that, and all these other summer-related movies that they do. I want to show you a little bit of history. Y'all know famed hat maker John B. Stetson. Stetson hats, right? He built this house for his daughter, this far corner to your left, the single American flag. And then years later it was sold. And when the new owners got in, they found left behind on the 3rd floor hats and hat boxes. what would you do with them if you found them? You'd immediately go to the Antiques Roadshow, right? See what they're. Well, this was before the roadshow, so they did the next best thing. They chucked them in the trash. Believe that, yeah. And then the shelf on. All right, see the railing here? Okay, the floodwaters were up to the top of that railing. This place is our oldest hotel, 1876, and the original proprietor, a guy named Colonel Henry Sawyer, was a Civil War hero. He was wounded and captured at the Battle of Brandy Station, but then he was involved in a prisoner exchange. And believe it or not, he was traded with the son of Robert E. Lee, Rudy Lee. I don't think there were any draft picks involved in that trade. To give a little taste of our, Mike, you got an e-bike coming up on here. Okay. Taste of our Vietnamese. We have beautiful Vietnamese, but maybe none prettier than this one. This is the mainstay. It's from 1872. 12.5-foot ceilings inside. Back in the day, this was a gambling parlor. It's called Jackson's Clubhouse. Ladies, I hate to tell you this, but back then you weren't allowed inside. You were only allowed to hang out on the verandas. I don't think those ladies have been there since 1873. I think they're a different set of women. Here's the Abbey for you on the left with its 60-foot tower. Isn't that beautiful? And that is a full building rental, folks. I have no clue what that would cost. I just know it'd be a lot. And this building here to your left, this is part of what was known as Surgeons Row. Doctors of Cape May had their homes and offices here. And the guy who was here was Dr. Franklin Hughes.